Hello, everyone, and welcome to the classes on modern Indian history. In the last class, we have started with the modern India, the class 12th NCERT by Bipin Chandra, and partially we have covered the first chapter of this book, The Decline of the Mughal Empire. In this lecture, we have seen a storyline as to how the successors after Aurangzeb and his son Bahadur Shah they were weak and number of problems were ailing the Mughal Empire, and we have seen how each successor and the nobles who helped them became the ruler. They tried to deal with the problems ailing the Mughal Empire, but these problems in the form of the Rajputs, the Sikhs, the Marathas, the Jats, and the Zamindars consolidating their power, and then from time to time the subadars or the governor of different provinces they challenging the Mughal empire. So all these problems existed, and finally we saw how the ultimate blow to the Mughal empire was the invasion by Nadir Shah during the reign of Muhammad Shah around 1738-39. This was the final nail in the coffin for the Mughal Empire, after which it became very weak. Starting from where we left in the last lecture, the impact of Nadir Shah's invasion. So, after Nadir Shah he looted and plundered India, it seemed that after his departure, the Mughal Empire was reviving under Muhammad Shah, the Mughal Emperor. But then the death of Muhammad Shah in 1748, it again brought back the conditions of civil war. So that means the nobles again they started fighting for usurping power after the death of Muhammad Shah in 1748. And then from 1748 onwards till 1767, Ahmad Shah Abdali, who was one of the general of Nadir Shah, he invaded India and plundered India between these years. Due to the repeated invasions of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, and also because of the faction or feud between the nobility, by 1761, Mughal Empire it lost its pan-India character. So it was no more an empire of entire India, and it just became a kingdom of Delhi. Then Ahmad Shah Abdali in 1761, he defeated Marathas in the Third Battle of Panipat. So again, it broke the dream of Marathas of controlling the entire country and founding a Maratha empire. So Shah Alam II, he became the Mughal emperor in 1759, and during his reign, two battles took place. One was the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, in which Marathas were defeated, and second was the Battle of Buxar that took place in 1764. So Shah Alam II, the Mughal emperor, he was an able and courageous ruler, and in 1764, he tried to make an alliance with the Nawab of Awadh, Shuja Uddaulah, and Mir Qasim of Bengal. So this alliance, in which Shah Alam II he participated along with Shuja Uddaulah of Awadh and Mir Qasim of Bengal, it it was against the British East India Company. So, why this battle took place that we will see in the coming lectures. But briefly, I'll tell you that British East India Company it was misusing dastak or some power given to it in Bengal to trade. So there was corruption in using dastak, which was impacting the revenues of Bengal. So this alliance was formed against the British East India Company. But this combined alliance, it was defeated by the British in the Battle of Buxar, and then a treaty followed. And under the Treaty of Allahabad, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II he became a pensioner of British East India Company, and he had to reside at Allahabad. In 1772, Shah Alam II, the Mughal emperor, he was brought back to Delhi under the protective arm of the Marathas. But then in 1803, the Britishers, they occupied Delhi, and the Mughal ruler, he just became a nominal ruler. So finally in 1803, the Delhi, it came under the British rule indirectly. And from 1803 till 1857, all these years, Mughal Empire, it just acted as the political front for British. That means the decisions were taken by the British East India Company, and they were implemented under the name of the Mughal Emperor. But the real power making was done by the British East India Company. And finally, the Mughal Empire was uprooted from India after the first revolt of 1857. Now, quickly, we will see the factors responsible for the decline of the Mughal Empire. So, what were the factors that led to the decay of the Mughal Empire? And we will be studying these factors under two heads. First, under the Aurangzeb. That means what were the policies that were adopted by Aurangzeb that led to the weakening of the empire. And the second heading would be what after Aurangzeb. That means what were the policies of the successors of the Aurangzeb that also proved fatal to the Mughal Empire. So, firstly, under Aurangzeb, first is the policy of expansion. The objective of expanding the territories of the empire in south at the cost of men and material. So that means the Aurangzeb, he was very ambitious ruler, and he wanted to expand the already huge Mughal empire to the south. So he wanted to increase the territories of the Mughal empire rather than consolidating the already this big empire. So he wanted to expand the empire. But this policy took the toll in the form of the resources that were wasted in waging war against the regional powers in the south, and also the soldiers that were lost in these wars. Secondly, Aurangzeb's ambition of creating a unified empire under single centralized state was difficult practically. So practically it was very difficult for a ruler to control this entire empire by sitting at one place in Delhi. So it was not possible for one person to control each and every province of the empire from the north. So basically, he wanted to create a unified empire and single centralized state, but it was not possible to implement it. Secondly, the policy of suppressing the Marathas. Now, Aurangzeb, he did not recognize Marathas as the regional power. So, unlike his forefathers like Akbar, so Akbar, he knew that Rajputs were a strong power, so he tried to create an alliance with the Rajput and maintain friendly relations with the Rajputs. But Aurangzeb, he also did not take any step to have friendly relations with the Marathas. So he waged the war with Marathas, and the war continued for many years, around 25 years. So for this many years, the emperor was absent from the north, and he was busy fighting the Marathas. So what were the impact of this policy against Marathas? It took the toll on the resources of the empire. So, firstly, the financial resources, again, the soldiers. So, these resources were being wasted in waging the war against Marathas. Secondly, it tarnished the prestige of Mughal Empire and its army due to the failure in suppressing the Marathas. So finally, Mughal Empire, though the emperor has wasted so much of resources and so much of time in suppressing and fighting Marathas, but ultimately the Marathas, they could not be suppressed. Next impact was it led to the neglect of the northwest frontier. So since the emperor, he was absent from the north and he has devoted all his energy towards the Marathas in fighting them and in crushing them. So this led to the neglect of the northwest frontier. So that frontier was neglected, which finally led, as we have seen, it led to the invasions of some foreign invaders like Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali in the future. Also, the policy against Marathas led to the demand for independence from the Mughal Empire by the provincial chiefs. So the governors, they felt that the Mughal Empire was weak, it was unable to crush the Marathas, and finally they also consolidated their power and they demanded their independence from the Mughal Empire. The third reason, the third factor was the conflict with the Rajput states. Now, Aurangzeb, in the beginning, he tried to follow the policy of his forefathers like Akbar, Shah Jahan, Jahangir. So they maintained good, friendly relations with the Rajputs, and this was the main pillar of the strength of the Mughal Empire. That they had friendly alliance with the Rajputs, and Rajputs supported the Mughals with their army. So in the beginning, Aurangzeb, he also tried to maintain the alliance with the Rajput kingdoms of Amber and Marwar. But then his attempt to exercise Mughal authority over them later broke this alliance. Fourthly, oppression and exploitation of peasants. So there were number of peasant uprising that took place during the tenure of Aurangzeb in the form of Jat Sikh uprisings. And these uprisings took place against the zamindars, against the nobles, against the revenue officials and the state, because all of them tried to extract as much revenue from the peasants. Then another factor which was very important was the religious policy of Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb, he tried to reverse the policy of non-interference in the religious beliefs and customs of the people. So as in the beginning I told you, Aurangzeb was the orthodox Muslim ruler. So he did not liked this policy of the secular state which was being followed by his predecessors. So he reversed that policy, and some of the example was the imposition of jizya. So he implemented a tax on non-Muslims. Then destruction of temples also took place during the tenure of Aurangzeb, and then he also tried to put some restrictions on Hindus. Now coming to the next subheading after Aurangzeb. Under this subheading, we will be seeing the reasons that further helped in the erosion of the Mughal Empire. Firstly, War of Successions. So as we have discussed earlier also, that there was a regular phenomena when a Mughal ruler died, it led to the War of Succession or the civil war amongst the princes. So civil war amongst the princes after the death of the ruler led to the great loss of life and property. So in these wars, number of soldiers and military commanders, they participated on both the sides, and it led to the loss of life and property. And the nobility was, again, it was divided amongst the different faction. Such uncertain condition helped local chiefs to consolidate their power and acquire greater autonomy. So it helped the local chiefs and zamindars to call for further independence. Secondly, weak and worthless successors. So after Aurangzeb and his son Bahadur Shah, who had a short reign, there was no leader or no ruler who could have effectively and efficiently led the Mughal Empire. So their successors were weak and worthless, and they were luxury loving, so more devoted to luxury. So a good, efficient ruler could have saved the Mughal Empire, but that was not the case. Thirdly, lack of devotion in the nobility. Now, nobility, which was earlier loyal to the empire, now it became divided, it became corrupt, it was not loyal, it was disloyal, and there was no devotion towards the empire. Why? Because now the nobles, they began to monopolize the offices, monopolizing the offices, or they made their offices hereditary. So this limited the chance of other nobles or other people from the lower ranks to rise as nobles based on their merit. So merit was not welcomed now, and the offices of nobles became hereditary. They promoted their own interest rather than that of the empire. Secondly, they formed factions. They got divided into various groups and they fought against each other and even the king. Thirdly, scarcity of Jagirs. So now what happened was that the Jagirs were limited in number and the number of nobles were increasing. So there was increasing fight amongst the noble for the Jagirs. And then their Jagirs gave them reduced income. So this also increased the selfishness of the nobles. So nobles were fighting amongst themselves for to get new Jagirs and to make as much money as possible from their own Jagirs. Fourthly, increased exploitation of the peasantry. So in this whole process where the nobles became corrupt and inefficient, they were promoting their personal interest, it became very difficult for the peasants to survive because all this increased the exploitation of the peasant. So peasant, they had to give the rent revenue to the empire, on which made the maximum income for the empire. But now the nobles, who were more devoted to luxury, they extracted maximum income from the peasants in their jagirs. So they always want to get maximum money from the peasants. The constant transfer of nobles from these jagirs increased the oppression. So further, the exploitation of peasantry was increased due to the transfer of nobles from one jagir to other. So they knew that they would be transferred in the near future. So they wanted to extract as much income from the peasant of their present jagir as possible. Then the other reason was rise of new class of revenue farmers. So this phenomena also occurred where a new group, it rose into prominence, which was that of revenue farmers. So revenue farmers, they were given the luxury to collect any amount from the peasant. Then peasant discontent led to number of uprisings that shook the strength of the Mughal Empire. So from time to time, there were number of peasant uprising in the form of Jat uprisings or Sikh revolt. So it also shook the strength of the Mughal Empire. Next point, neglect of overseas trade and navy. So there was greater emphasis on land as the prime source of revenue. So in the Mughal Empire, there has always been more emphasis on land as the uh, key source of revenue. This led to the neglect of the secondary sources like trade and navy. So both the trade and navy were ignored in the process. lack of advances in science and technology to support the industry. During the Mughal time, the goods were being produced. The goods, they were very good in quality and quantity, but still there was no advancement in science and technology to support the industry. So this also hampered the Indian goods and the trade. Next reason was no inherent feeling of unity among the people. Now, there were different sections of people like zamindars, peasants, and nobles, but they lacked the feeling of oneness. That means there was no feeling among any section of people that they belong to one common nation or they are Indians. They were loyal to their culture, to their tribe, but to their region, but they were not loyal to one nation. So this feeling of belonging to one common nation and fighting unitedly, this was lacking among the different sections of people. All of them placed their self-interest above the state. Even the Marathas, Jats, Rajputs, they were fighting as regional power. So all were asserting themselves as a regional power, and they lacked the idea of a state, that is India. So there was no idea of India or Indianness among the different sections of people at that time. Then the next reason was depletion of financial resources, administrative inefficiency, and reduced military strength. So financial resources were depleting. Why? Because there were limited number of jagirs, and the jagirdars, they were trying to extract as much revenue as possible from the peasants, and they were also converting the crown lands or the khalisa lands into their own lands. But so this took the toll on the financial resources of the empire. Further, the emperor, in order to make every jagirdar happy, he has to give some of the khalisa land or the crown land to that jagirdar as his jagir. Then there was administrative inefficiency. This also we have seen that the nobility was divided into various factions. They were fighting amongst themselves, and there was lot of corruption, bribery, fraud, indiscipline, inefficiency that was existing amongst the nobles, and reduced military strength. So military was also demoralized because they were not paid from time to time. Girdars, further the Mansabdars, who had to maintain a particular quota of troops, they were also not maintaining that quota of troops, which could have strengthened the Mughal army. So all these were the problems. Then the next problem was the foreign invasion. This also we have seen that due to all the weaknesses, finally there were the invasions of Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, which further weakened the empire. So they acted as the final blow to the empire. Invasions brought to the surface the weaknesses of the Mughal Empire to its opponent. So now the English or the British East India Company and the Marathas and other foes of the Mughal Empire, they know that the Mughal Empire was facing a number of weaknesses. Then the next reason was none of the local Indian powers that challenged the Mughal Empire could rise to the occasion. This means that there were number of Indian powers that were opposing the Mughal Empire, like the Rajputs, the Marathas. They were challenging the Mughal Empire from time to time. But ultimately, when the empire got decayed, none of these Indian local powers could come forward to take the position or to take the vacuum created by the decay of the Mughal Empire. So that means none of these Indian powers could replace the Mughal Empire. So they were strong enough to challenge or to destroy the Mughal Empire, but they were not that strong to overtake the empire or to take its position. So all of them suffered from the same weaknesses as the Mughal Empire. And finally, Britishers armed with better technology and evolved economic system took advantage of these weaknesses and thus started the rule of a foreign power in India. So when none of the local power could take the place of the Mughal Empire, the vacuum was finally filled up by British East India Company, as it had better technology, better economic system, and British East India Company removed the Mughal Empire in 1857 and took its place and a new. So this is the end of the first chapter, the decline of the Mughal Empire, where in great detail we have seen how the successors of Aurangzeb were weak, and there were other numerous problems and foreign invasions. And then one by one, we have seen the different reasons that were responsible for the decline of Mughal Empire. Thank you so much.